Yeah, and can I ask you to, are you recording? Yes, the video?
Yes, now I'm recording.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I decided that these comments about technical problems is not important to record.
Okay.
So. Okay, good. Cool. Now I'm ready to start. So, my name is Katya Kaminska, and I can see your names. I see Olga, Mila, Alina. It's too long, right? Maria and Lena, right? Okay. Do you know the topic of today's presentation? Or seminar?
Zelda.
Once again?
Teaching English.
So something connected to Zelda? No?
No, it's not connected to Zelda, but it's connected to teaching directly. Okay, I see. What an interesting situation. We are at a presentation and nobody knows what it's about.
Well, teaching because we are all teachers, so we can guess that it's not about teaching.
Yeah, sure. Okay, actually, Marina asked me to prepare some material about correcting techniques. So she said that the teachers are interested in that, and so I collected all my experience and some experience from other teachers, which I learned from them, and I'm going to try and share with you today. So if there are some technical problems, I'll appreciate your help, and I'll appreciate your understanding when I can't cope and will need to wait for a second. So, I'm trying to share the screen with you, and I've lost the needed one.
Yes.
Okay, here it is. So, just a second, it's the wrong one. Okay, so here's the presentation, and it's called Correction Techniques, and my name is Katerina Kaminska, so it says here. Can everybody see the page?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. There are several main questions which we're going to discuss, and they are presented here. So they are: when do we correct mistakes? Why do we do this? What kind of mistakes do we correct? And how do we correct them? And during the seminar, we're going to go through them, and I want to hear from you, and I'll tell you what I think about it. Okay, so let's start with when. Please now tell me what your ideas are. When do we correct mistakes? In which situations? Any ideas accepted?
When the mistakes are quite important are for understanding, and the students should see what the mistake is, and it can be done after they've done this mistake. For example, they are talking. You make some notes, and then you see that's a mistake, or you just repeat. People is. Are you sure? People is. Maybe people, and then. Of course, students can make some corrections.
Now you're moving to how, yes, and
how.
Why.
Okay, sorry.
It's important for understanding. Let's clarify what kind of understanding. It's important for the student's understanding of the grammar, or it's important for the listener, the person who is listening to a student, to understand him.
In both situations, I believe.
Okay.
Mainly, I would say. Mainly, well, mutual understanding should be achieved, but mainly the person understands himself, but mainly that the understanding some spheres of their life that's very crucial and critical. For example, I worked for long periods of time with pilots and air traffic controllers, and if they make a little tiny mistake or misunderstand each other, they can even crash or collide in the sky. So that was critical to teach them to understand the mistakes and to correct. So crucial mistakes and important mistakes. They are also quite often global mistakes, global so-called important mistakes. One more word for it.
Okay, so this all are comments on the first point, when the mistake is important for understanding, right? Okay, more ideas, please? When?
More ideas. Well, when you want to teach your student how to speak correctly, of course, you know that if he says he like or my friend's work here, it's not crucial for understanding. You still understand, but you are teaching him and you want him to succeed in it. So it's better if you just one time or remind one more time. So every opportunity should be used, but you have to do it correctly and politely. And let me share with you just one little suggestion. I even know why you have this topic, because I have also a lot of experience in teaching. And once I told Marina, I have one student, a very nice guy, but I'm confused. Just one day he told me, I'm embarrassed, you correct me all the time. And I did that actually. All the time, so good, everything is fine, you're doing the progress. I politely corrected him, but he was just not happy about learning English, and that was difficult. So Marina said, I know what you need, the session of
I see. So as I get you, it's when you want the student to speak correctly, and when you want to help the student to be polite, right? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, no, well, actually, I said that you have to correct them politely, but also the point which you have start here, it's also acceptable, can be.
Okay, let's focus on when, right? So, okay, be polite. Shall I take it away then? Yes, like this? Okay, more ideas? More ideas?
When students should pass different exams, it's quite important to avoid the different mistakes.
Okay, when preparing for exams, yes. More? Let's think of one more, and that will be all.
And I'm sorry, I need to clarify if you were talking about the correcting mistakes in oral speech, or it can also refer to reading or writing.
Okay, we're talking about all types of mistakes, so if you want to add something about reading or writing, then you can complete that. So
I guess sometimes when we use activities like reading aloud, or when we work with some texts, or I don't know, like sentence tasks, when the student is supposed to read them. So I guess that we should correct the pronunciation like immediately. For example, if the student like read the words not very well, not right, we should correct it at once and practice the speech.
So when mispronounced, right? When something is mispronounced, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 ideas. Now I'll put my ideas here, and let's compare your ideas and mine. Look, perhaps my phrasing will be different, but some of the ideas might be similar to yours. So this is what I have. And it's after production stage, between activities, at the practice stage, after writing, and after a test. Did you mention anything of this? I can even see that you mentioned something I didn't think of. When preparing for exams, right? So it's a strategic mistake when you need to help the student act appropriately, right, as required in the exam. Okay, perhaps you were speaking more generally, and I'm speaking in more specific terms, like when exactly, at which stage of the lesson. So that might be the difference in your point of view and mine. Okay, after production stage, does anybody know what the production stage is?
When the student is ready to answer, like according to the material that you have studied. For example, you give the material, you study that material, then it's like production stage that student answers the question, does different exercises. So this is production stage.
What you're talking about seems to be a practice stage more.
Yeah. Or maybe.
And production stage is a little bit different. We're getting back to the practice stage a little later. And the production stage is the stage of the lesson where your student is participating in an activity designed by you, of course, which is close to real life. And where they are not, completing sentences or answering questions, when they are like role-playing a real-life situation. This is where they put together all the possible language, both the language they learned at this very lesson and all the previous knowledge. They might need anything. So during this stage, we do not correct them, but you see that it says after, not during, after the production stage. So we imagine that at this production stage, the student is in a real life situation when nobody corrects them. Nobody does it in real life. People only communicate with them and try to help. Try to understand what they want from them and what information they give. So after production stage, so you finish it, and after that you correct the mistakes. Then between activities, for example, you've started a lesson and there was a warm-up, a short conversation. You talked about how the student spent the last 2 days. And when you finish, before you start another activity, for example, reading, you can do a short correction slot. Because when talking about his previous days, his or her previous days, the student might have made mistakes. You can do it here. Or, for example, while reading, the student was commenting on some answers and made mistakes. You did not correct that because it was important to answer the questions correctly, but after you finish, you say, oh, please pay attention. After he, we say, we put S after the verb, and you give the student an example. Okay, this is called between activities. At the practice stage, Lena, as far as I remember, mentioned the practice stage. It's when the person completes sentences or answers some specific questions related to the topic learned. This is exactly the stage where you can correct the student's mistakes immediately. The student makes a mistake, and this is the stage where you control the student's language, and you can, for example, a student has said something, and immediately after that you say, I'm sorry, let's stop here. Was it right? How to say it correctly? Blah, blah, blah. What's the tense? And everything else. Okay, and of course it's after writing, which I can't see all of you all together, so I need to check the names. It was Olga who mentioned that. Oh, there's some noise. Can you hear it? Oh, no, not now. It's okay. Olga mentioned, as far as I remember, writing. And after a test, of course, students make mistakes. Yeah. Any questions at this point?
Everything is clear.
At this point, it's clear. Well, I hope it will be better. There's some noise. Is anyone producing any noise? No?
Yeah, we hear that noise. Whose noise is that?
But yeah, not clear where it's not here. Okay, let's try to hear each other through the noise. Okay, the next stage is why. Why on earth do we correct students' mistakes? What are the reasons? Your ideas, please.
Because they should know how to speak correctly.
Okay. To help them know, yes.
Yeah, to help them know how to speak correctly.
More ideas?
And how to write correctly and how to read correctly.
How to speak.
Make the same mistakes all the time, especially when the students do the same mistakes repeatedly all the time.
Okay, just a second. How to speak, write, and read. Read, do I get it right? It's pronounce, right? Not maybe read, but pronounce.
Yes, read, write, pronounce, like all the stages of their.
Actually.
And especially when the students do the same mistakes repeatedly, it's also very important to correct them as well.
To avoid using this mistake. Yeah.
So if I can add, I would just say, usually the main aim, the main purpose of correcting people is just to help them to succeed in their main goal, in their career, or they usually need English for some. So it's not just because you need to know grammar perfectly, no, because you have to pass the test, you want to achieve the highest score, or because you want to pass the interview, or job interview, or
Okay. Can I put it as to help them succeed in communication?
Yep.
Yeah, like the purpose of communication can be any, but they need to succeed in any kind of that. Okay. Anything else?
So that's the main one.
Okay, is the main one, yeah, but there are smaller ones maybe. Well, I'll share mine.
Also, we correct them to help them to understand the difference between different forms. Sometimes they just do not feel that difference. So if we speak deeply about details, sometimes we correct them just to explain what is the difference in different forms or
Okay.
Understand the peculiarities of the grammar issue or something.
To help understand the difference. Okay, I put it here. Now let's look at my version. Oh, my list is very short. It appears that it's shorter than yours. Okay. I put it as follows. Help, why? To help realize gaps in understanding, like Olga said, to help understand the difference. And Maria said to help them know how to speak right, pronounce correctly. Yes. Yeah, like gaps in understanding. Probably I should add in understanding and what? Okay. Language knowledge, right? Probably that's better. It is more general than my understanding. Okay. Then I have to understand the direction of development. This means
help them succeed. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Can't see who's talking. Can you repeat, please?
I'm talking.
Yeah,
direction of development or to help them succeed in communication. No. In development, or when they have a goal to succeed in business language or to succeed in taking part in different presentations or contests, who knows?
Okay, yeah.
No?
Right. It can be that. I actually meant a narrower thing, but what you're saying is also right. Yes, it's like more general, like in which direction they need to develop so that succeed, right? And
they know their weak points. So if you focus what they don't know yet, because they sometimes think that I'm keen on English, I know everything. And if you point them something, so it helps them to understand in which spheres, in which direction they have to improve something. So probably
exactly. Yes, I meant a narrower thing than
Alina, you gave a good comment. Understand. You see how differently understand different things. Great.
Okay, so what do we have? Direction of development. I meant, like, for example, I think it was also Alina who, or Maria, I'm sorry, I forgot already. Somebody mentioned repeated mistakes, right? And we correct repeated mistakes so that the student realized that, they need to pay attention to this sphere and they need some development in this sphere. Like guidance, but I meant some technical stuff like grammar, pronunciation, and you also mentioned the direction and development in communication, which is also right. Yes, and why do we correct? To recycle. Does anybody know what recycling is? Well, if the silence, then no. Okay, recycling means like revising. So. For example, the student makes this mistake, and we once again pay attention to this mistake, draw the student's attention to this mistake, and go through the rule together. Through the rule or through vocabulary, for example. And a student can make one and the same mistake 100 times. And I'm sorry, it's our job to repeat the rule or to repeat the correct way to say that 100 times, and probably, hopefully, on the 101st, they'll finally say it correctly. Or maybe not. Our job is to go on helping them.
To avoid those 100 times, you can just play with them the game, especially if it's something with pronunciation. For example, you are tired of repeating no, you have to say it in this way, just telling one more time and one more time, repeat it and repeat it. For example, you tell the student, please say it in this way. And next time, repeat it 3 times. The person repeats 1, 2, 3. They start smiling like, are you kidding on me? Do I really need to repeat it 3 times, especially adults? And then I say, believe me, next time if you make the same mistake in this word, you have to repeat 5 times. They start laughing. But next time they can do mistake and repeat 5 times, believe they start remembering. But I tell if they make mistake, repeat 1 time. So that's
once again, this is about how. Yes, Olga is running ahead and wants to get to how finally. Yes, I understand the urge, but I like to go, through how to put it. I think that we need to understand like the background for this technique before we actually start doing that. So that's why I'm talking about it. Okay. Yes. Sometimes the student keep making mistakes. We can play games with them, play different tricks. Some of them we'll try out today. Like several. And the more you repeat it, the more you help your student understand it again, the better they remember. At least according to the theory, students are different. Some just keep making it anyway. Any questions here? Any comments?
No.
No? Okay, then let's go on. The next stage is what kind. Oh, here we have how. It's coming. Okay, so what kind of mistakes do we correct?
Grammatical mistakes, of course.
Grammar. Okay. I heard grammar. Alina's microphone is the loudest, so grammar was very clear. And someone said something else, but I didn't hear. Say it again, please.
I also said grammar, yeah.
So it was the same word. I'm sorry, but the voice was quiet. Okay.
Quite often correct not only grammar and pronunciation, but to my mind, it's important if you have students of higher level, then you have to pay their attention to the words which they use. So I don't know how to...
Which is called vocabulary.
Well, the usage of vocabulary appropriately. Let it be like this.
Okay, correct.
Appropriately to the situation.
Repeat, please.
I said just the usage of vocabulary accurately and appropriately to the situation.
Yeah, appropriate to the situation. Yes, that's right. Okay. Then it's called appropriacy, right? Appropriacy. So to use the word appropriate for the situation, the phrase is appropriate for the situation. Very good. We'll go. Okay. Anything else?
Maybe appropriate to the level. Because if you say here, it's good, the film is good, the food is good, it's for elementary. But if you are intermediate or upper intermediate, it's not very nice. So you can teach some other vocabulary, and you can ask your students, okay, what synonyms can we use instead of this word? It's for elementary, but you are upper intermediate, something like that.
A very important comment. Yes. Somebody was trying to say something else.
Yes, I wanted to mention maybe some spelling mistakes when the students do the mistakes and make the mistakes in writing different words.
Spelling, because you remember that we're not only talking about speaking, but also writing, everything.
Okay. Still haven't written pronunciational mistakes, so if they mispronounce the word, it can be misunderstood, so that's also the problem, and that's why it's
And if the student doesn't pronounce the words correctly, it might be tough to understand them. Okay, good. Anything else?
Sometimes intonation, because intonation is also different in English language, yeah. So in Russian, it's like there is like much more variety of intonations in English. They often try to speak the same way as in Russian. They also speak in English, but so much different intonation.
Okay, I agree. Yes, and
summarize everything. If we have already mentioned all these points, so then we can add just fluency. Sometimes we have already corrected all these steps, but student is still speaking too slow, so you can add fluency here. Just extra correction for higher levels. take the timer and say, you have to answer this question for a minute, especially if you prepare them for the exams. They love it.
Okay, what you're talking is an important point, yes. However, I wouldn't call it correction. I'd say it's training a skill, yeah. Yeah, it's training a skill, but not really correction. They haven't done anything wrong. And when we speak about correction, it's different.
Well, they speak too slowly. I again come back to my previous huge experience. Having worked for 8 years in aviation, I realized that Marina, in aviation, if they speak too slow, they work on one and the same frequency. For example, 100 aircraft are flying, but they work on the one and the same frequency. So if one person is speaking, all the others have to keep silent. So tempo is important, very important in aviation. Another sphere.
It's true, but I still think that it's a bit unrelated, and it's not it's a skill. It's a slightly different thing. Okay, so let's compare your list with mine. Grammar, vocabulary. All right, bingo. Pronunciation. Intonation. Look, usually pronunciation and intonation are actually, they're not the same, but intonation is included in pronunciation. But I decided to put it separately because with the help of intonation, I would work separately on it, because intonation also shows, because of the wrong intonation, a Russian-speaking intonation, for example, you may sound impolite, you may sound bored, you may sound rude even. So that's why work on intonation is a slightly different way of work than work on pronunciation. Then, look, you put spelling too. I added punctuation. When working with students writing, please don't forget about punctuation. It's also important and sometimes also crucial for understanding.
Punctuation? Why? Could you please tell us why?
Why?
I have heard a joke about that mistake about punctuation. Let's go and eat grandma. If you put a comma, let's go and eat. Sorry, just a moment. I just trying to refresh my.
Let's go and eat, grandma.
Grandma, yeah, comma, then grandma, and then let's go, comma, eat grandma. So the crucial difference here, you see. So yeah, it's quite important.
Okay, yeah. So this is a simple example which Alina gave. I could also add punctuation. For example, if we're talking about punctuations writing, definitely. Imagine your student is preparing for an exam and they need to produce a formal text. And they put a lot of question marks and exclamation signs there. Well, this should be corrected, because it's not a simple inaccuracy, but it's a mistake, and this is wrong in such type of writing. Or they write a question, but they don't put a question mark, and it's not clear what kind of sentence it is.
Or dash also. Yeah, in Russian language, the dash is very often used, but in English, it is used when only you want to stress something, for example. So also should be mentioned.
Yeah, so we also clarify like the trends in the language. And English punctuation also includes capital letters. And this also should be corrected. Like if they write names of months.
Well, I agree, ladies, with you, but I just wanted to emphasize that the main purpose is just the communication. So usually we prepare them for speaking. Of course, if you're speaking about exams, we do pay attention to all this stuff, of this punctuation, but it's not of the highest importance when they are just training for other purposes.
It depends. If you're not
just that it.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Let's look at the following. Punctuation, being a part of communication, can influence your reader's impression. And once again, if you're writing an informal letter, of course, nothing is important. So the only important thing is to be friendly and clear, of course. But if you're writing a formal text, even if it's not for an exam, if you regularly write for example, such simple things as days of the week with a small letter, this doesn't look polite. Olga, you're mute for some reason.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yes, something happened.
Just have to leave you for several minutes. I'll be back. I'm very sorry.
Oh, yeah, I see.
I beg it.
Good. Then I put register or style and appropriacy here. You mentioned appropriacy, and I was totally happy to hear that, because it's an aspect which many teachers leave out, but it should be clarified, helped. The student should be helped with different situations in which certain phrases are used and not used. And register and style, I was probably thinking more about writing, because there are words which are regularly used in informal language, and they are never used in formal language. Okay, and the student should be helped with that. Probably register and style and appropriacy are very close, right? Trying to remember why I put them separately. I definitely meant something.
The appropriacy of using the words during speaking may be activity, like depending on the topic, what you're talking about, maybe in this way.
Maybe, and maybe also I meant that register and style, it's about formal and informal, and appropriacy is that when you are sitting in a restaurant, you don't say
I want. Yes,
yeah,
or you say I would like. Yeah.
Yes, probably something like that. Yes, because not only formal, informal, but also the phrases appropriate for the situation. Maybe this. Okay, good. Questions, comments? Maybe you'd like to add anything? No. Okay.
I need to ask you, could I also leave you for like 3 minutes? Very necessary.
You too need to leave.
Yeah, I'm going to be back very soon.
Okay, okay.
I'm sorry.
I hope you're all right.
I'm sorry. I have little family problems with my daughter. So I need to leave the meeting. If I manage to fix it, I'll be back soon. But I just don't want you to hear that noise. I'll just leave it out and then come back if I manage to fix it. I'm sorry.
Okay. We'll be waiting for you. If you manage, we'll be happy.
Sorry, Marina. Thank you.
Okay, good. Next, yeah, probably me too. Okay, next. How? We've just got to how. And you see that I have several blocks here. First, during a speaking activity, then after writing, and after a test. So let's deal with the speaking activity. We have fewer participants now, and what shall I do? Okay.
We are recording it, so.
Yes, but I have a certain number of not activities, but ways to act, and I was thinking of 5. Okay, I'll manage. During a speaking activity, I'd like you to give me ideas. How do you think mistakes can be corrected during a speaking activity?
As I've already mentioned, we can highlight some mistakes, like repeat them, and using our intonation. When we use our intonation, just we can show that here something must be corrected. Like in my example, people are. People are, maybe people. No, people is. Sorry, because it's a very big mistake of my students. People is people. And I've tried to rephrase
this.
Okay, I put it as repeat with stress on the wrong word. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Then facial expression, for example, raise your eyebrow and look like, really? Are you like, do you mean that, for example? Because sometimes it depends on the student, yes, of course. And if students like follows you, yes, and he looks at your reaction. So I have some students that they are waiting whether there is happening something on my face or just like, no, and they are thinking about something.
And they respond, yes? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good. More?
And sometimes I show them that something must be corrected in this way. For example, or they want to use the second column. They, yesterday I buy some apples. Are you sure? Yeah. And then, oh no, yes, they are bought.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, good. Mm-hmm. More?
Well, maybe sometimes just not to interrupt the student, I just write down their different mistakes, and after they finish speaking their speech, I am repeating their mistakes or even their sentences, and also I ask them with the right intonation, "Are you sure? Because you told it like that, like that. Please tell me what was the mistake or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
Because it may be very impolite to tell them during their speaking, and just after the speaking, after they finish.
Well, I agree with you that sometimes it's, and in most cases, it sounds really impolite to interrupt them.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. It's actually the best way to put down mistakes while the student is speaking, and to correct it, to correct these mistakes later. Remember, I put it as between the activities.
Mm-hmm.
Or after production stage. The only stage where it's appropriate is probably practice stage. However, I still make the student or let the student finish the sentence at least and then correct. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we interrupt the thought.
Yeah.
And the person will focus on how to say it, and then will forget like the idea, yes, what they actually wanted to say. So there can be a lot of mess because of that. Mm-hmm. Okay, more?
Maybe giving some provoking questions like, are you sure that it was like correct? And let's analyze. And even sometimes when the student really says correctly, I often ask, are you sure? And I want them to prove that they are right, actually, because sometimes yeah, it's good that they say it automatically, yeah, but sometimes they really have to understand what they are talking about, yes. And they start analyze, they start thinking, yes, I was right, yeah, why did you ask me that? Yeah, so it was like surprise, but they recall everything that they studied, yes, in this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Lena is a provocative teacher.
Sometimes.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. More ideas? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see what I have for this page, and then we'll extend it in a way. I'll show you how. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Oh, we need to do something here, like this. Oh, okay. So during a speaking activity, a running correction, which means interrupt and correct. Yes, it is possible, but only in certain situations. Yes, Maria is right. Very often it's not very polite to do that. However, I have a student who is currently living in Chicago, who, like, I tried all sorts of things, like really all possible sorts of things. It just doesn't help. He only pays attention when I interrupt him and ask him to say it correctly. So it's far from the best way to correct, but with some students, it's the only way you can approach them. They kind of they don't respond in any other way. But you can do this after 102nd time. Remember, I told you that 100 times they make the same mistakes. 101st should be successful, and 102nd is possible. Is a possible time to use this technique. Okay, next. Write an incorrect sentence in chat. Here I mean your online lessons, right? You work online, and while the student is speaking, you can write the sentence in chat, not interrupting them, and they will see the sentence. I also use this reverse smile, like this, next to the sentence, so they understood that there's something wrong with the sentence. Very often they just go back in what they are speaking and correct it themselves, or if they don't respond, they're busy with their idea. I just leave it for later when we finish like this block, this topic, and are ready to move to the next activity. We correct several mistakes which they've made. Look, here I put show and the student corrects. You can let the student correct it himself, like this is the wrong sentence, correct it. Or you could guide the student through correction, which is quite obvious, I think, in fact. Okay, finger correction. Alina mentioned it. What you said is one of the options. Yes, you can signal something with your fingers. One of the ways is like this. This is a sentence. And a student said, I go to the bank yesterday. So each finger represents a word, and it's I go to the bank yesterday. The bank, like the article and the word, for example. And what do? The students say, I go to the bank yesterday. And you say, huh? And the student understands that this, well, not from the first time, but you explain, and then they'll understand that there's something wrong with the second word. Or they said, I go in the bank yesterday. Or I went in the bank yesterday. I went in the bank. They understand that this word, something's wrong with this word. This is one of the ways you can break sentences in such like fingers and choose the wrong part. Or, for example, one of the brightest examples which I use is be going to do. It has 4 components. Or be doing, present continuous. It has 2 components. So the student, there are 4 components, be going to do. And the student says, I go into doing. And I say this and this. And they know that in this construction, and of course it's when we're learning this construction, they understand that, they forgot to put this M. And, oh, there was something wrong with this form.
Sorry for interruption. I have for this rule or like glasses of Harry Potter or glasses of Katya Pushkareva. Have you heard this example? No?
No, tell us.
For example, M is R. It's the first glass. Let's call so. Yeah, glass. And ink is the second glass. So if you want to sound correctly, if you want to have a correct sentence, you must have 2 glasses, not just 1 glass. Yeah. So then I just show, she, and then in this way, she is. Yeah, they understand. Especially with children, it works very nice, and they understand. Oh, Katya Pushkareva, Harry Potter, something like that. And also with hands, I use something like that. Or it's present, just right now. It's happening. Yeah. You mean that it was there in the past? I want you to say something in there. When in the future, I show it. Future, now, or past. So something like that.
Okay, good. Well, I think it's a good tool in your collection and in mine too. Thanks. I'll try it out. I'll definitely try it out and see if it works well for my students or not. But I'll try it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you know that with your fingers you can invent different coding. Like, how did you do this? Like this? I don't know. Okay, good. I'll try later. I'll rehearse later. Okay, so finger correction. Then there can be feedback in an email after the lesson. What I mean is, with the same student in Chicago, just a second, then I need to stop sharing and do a different one. A technical break, sorry. Just a second. I was prepared and then there was a problem and it's always broken. here. Okay, it's here, and I'm sharing this. See this? Okay, so this is my Google account, my personal, so you won't see my name here. Okay, and this is what my student gets after the lesson. So I write blah, blah, blah. Here's the feedback. It's quite long. And I write some comment. Then my correction letter, or my feedback letter, consists of 3 parts. First, it's vocabulary. And these are the words which we learned during the lesson. The words which the student forgot and couldn't remember during the lesson. So I put them down, and after the lesson, I send these words to him in an email to revise at the next lesson. Then the next block is pronunciation. And in this block, I put the words which the student mispronounced. And then at the next lesson, for the next lesson, it's the student's task to check their pronunciation and to be ready to pronounce them correctly. It's a part of homework. And finally, it's the block called phrases to correct. Here, in fact, it's not after 1 lesson, it's after 3 or 4 lessons, because now he doesn't make many mistakes in 1 lesson. He's developed. And so it's a collection of 3 or maybe even 4 lessons. So I put these phrases, and then at the next lesson, we correct them together. It's his homework to think of how to say them correctly. And during the lesson, we go through them, and I check whether he can say them well now. This collection is very useful because after we finish correcting these phrases, I can say, now let's look at your mistakes. Do you have any typical mistakes? And he says, oh yes, I still say, for example, go to the work. It's one of his favorite. Or I still say, like, I'm really understand. So he says, I'm understand, and it's been 3.5 years, and he keeps saying that, and he himself is irritated, but okay. I can remind him of them, and at some point, hopefully, he'll get irritated enough to stop saying that. He has corrected many mistakes, but still there are some. It's a student with this situation when he learned the language being in the English-speaking environment, thinking not about any grammar, any accuracy, and now I need to reteach him. That's why he has so many fossil mistakes. But yeah, you can use this collection to remind him and to group them, to draw his attention to, remember I put it as area for development or direction of development. In this lesson or in our next lesson, please try to say this. Okay? Then the next point on my list is, just a second, starting one. Okay, the next point is a Google document, feedback after the lesson. In fact, it's the same, and I'll show you. It's like this. It's another student, also in the United States. Same story, same problems. So here I put some dates because it's not an email, so he could find them the needed day, and same blocks: vocabulary, pronunciation, phrases to correct. But here, because it's a Google document, I can see the way he corrected. Is the second half. I can see the way he corrected that. He puts that in writing and corrects his mistakes. This was his homework, and during the lesson, I checked pronunciation. I went through the vocabulary block, and together we went through the phrases he corrected. Here, this is the feedback which we've already worked on. And that's why we don't have any questions here. Very often he says like that. Here, instead of I agree, he just wait. He'll see that and say, Katya, what have you been doing in my document? He just wait. It's English. He just puts a question. This means that he has no idea how to say it correctly, or he has no idea what mistake he's made. And during the lesson, we clarify it, and then everything's all right. Okay, let me put it back. Oh, okay. I haven't been here. Everything's all right. So you can use this. Once again, it's very useful because you can go back to previous lessons to revise vocabulary. So we revise this vocabulary, this lesson, and then I say, oh, let's go back to the previous lesson. What does annoy mean? What does tiresome mean? Or I can ask the student to pronounce these words again. And there are many, many, many blocks like that. And I can go like 5 lessons. And I say, please find the feedback from the 27th of June. Okay, let's revise the vocabulary. So it's a useful tool. And one more, it's next on my list, a Google document for immediate correction. You can use chat, and you can also use a special document. This is a document, it's called Anton in Class. It's my student from Germany. In fact, he's Ukrainian, but he's been living in Germany for 15 years or something, decided to learn English as well. And so if he, for example, we have this, he had to prepare questions about the text, Holiday in Scotland, and he put these questions, but now they are correct. Originally, they contained some mistakes. And he writes the sentences, and then I say, there's something wrong with this word. I highlight it, and he can see which word I mean. He corrects it. If he does not understand how he corrects it, I can do it myself, because I shared this document and we can both edit this document. Alina, you don't look as if you understand it.
No, I understand it.
Okay. Does everyone know how to share these documents? Yeah? Okay. It's a simple button here. You click it and send the invitation to edit to the people you want to be able to do that. Okay. And how to get rid of it. Bye-bye. So, clear? Questions?
No.
Not so far. Okay, very good. And now, there are 4 of us, and I have 14 points. Now I'm going to try a very difficult technical stuff. Just a second, I'm remembering the procedure. I'm going to send each one of you a separate task. Please, at the moment, just look at it. Do not ask questions. Don't say anything. Just receive the sentences, okay? So, it will take about a minute, I hope, not more. Each one gets 1. Alina, you get it? Next, Lena. Just a second, Lena, I'm copying the phrases. It took me time to understand how to do this online. I did that offline before. Lena, you should be getting a message. Now, Maria. Maria. I hope everyone sees only 4 sentences, right?
Yeah.
Very good. because it's a secret to all the others. All right. And Mila, you should be getting a message.
I can see that.
Everyone needs to have 4 sentences, 4 tasks, so to speak. In fact, 4 ways to correct mistakes. Now, your student has made the following mistake. I already mentioned it today. I go to the bank yesterday. So, I'm sorry, I only sent it to Mila. Okay. Now everyone should get this message, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It works. Okay, good. So I go to the bank yesterday. This is what your student said. Now I will assign the role to every one of you, and there will be the student. The task is to produce this sentence again and again, the same sentence. And the teacher will be using the techniques described in the message. In the message you got, in the private message you got. Okay, Lena. Let's start with Alina. Let's go this way. Alina, you are the student. Maria, you are the teacher. All right? So, Alina, say the sentence.
I go to the bank yesterday.
You go to the bank yesterday?
Maybe went.
Yes, you went to the bank yesterday. Is it like that? Okay.
Yes. This is exactly what I mean. Next, Alina, go on. Repeat again.
One more time. I go to the bank yesterday. Yeah. Yeah. I go to the bank yesterday.
Really? Did you? I don't know how to say. You go to the bank yesterday? Like that?
Go. Yeah. Go.
Go to the bank?
I went. To be honest, I haven't understood where the emphasis was.
Yes, and actually, because usually I ask my students like that. I go to the bank yesterday, or shall I show it on fingers as you told us?
Just a second. Maria, your first phrase was
Really?
Really? Okay. So, Maria, you need to do exactly what's described in your sentence. So, if it says really, then?
Really? I go to the bank yesterday, because in my sentence is written, did you make a deposit?
Oh, okay, this is exactly what you need to say. So, Alina says, I go to the bank yesterday. And you say, really? Did you make a deposit?
Okay. Really? Did you make a deposit?
No, unfortunately, I haven't got enough money to do it just right now.
Okay, good. Alina, once again, please.
I go to the bank yesterday.
Go?
Yeah, I used my legs, so I go.
I go to the bank yesterday. I go to the bank because it was yesterday.
Oh, yesterday, then went.
So it was, yes. Because like a gesture, yes, so show my 2 fingers.
Good, okay. And the last time, Alina, please.
I go to the bank yesterday.
I go to the bank yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I went, I see, I went.
Okay, so these are some techniques. Let's move on. Some more techniques. Maria, you are now a student. And you need to repeat this, repeat the sentence the way Alina did. The others watch, experience, and imagine how you feel. As Alina did, she acted as a student, right? Now, Maria, you are the student. Mila, you are the teacher. Maria?
Okay. I go to the bank yesterday.
Okay, so let's see. I go to the bank yesterday. What do you think about?
I went to the bank yesterday.
That's right, that's simple. Okay, good. Once more.
I go to the bank yesterday.
I go to the bank yesterday.
Okay, I went to the bank yesterday.
That's right, yesterday, so it's past simple. Okay, once more.
I go to the bank yesterday.
Please repeat.
I go to the bank yesterday.
And again.
I went to the bank yesterday.
That's right.
It works. Okay.
That's right. and once more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I go to the bank yesterday.
You go to the bank yesterday?
Oh, I went to the bank yesterday.
That's right. Okay. Good.
Okay, so some of these. And next, Mila, you are the student, and Lena, you are the teacher. Let's see.
Okay. I go to the bank yesterday.
I go to the bank yesterday. Yeah, can you check it's in the chat?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I went to the bank yesterday.
Yeah, great, good job. Okay.
Good. I go to the bank yesterday.
What is the second word? Excuse me, can you repeat?
I go to the bank yesterday.
Again, what is the second word? Are you sure?
Okay, I went to the bank yesterday.
Perfect, yes. Okay, good. Then?
I go to the bank yesterday.
I went.
I went to the bank yesterday, yeah.
That's right, good.
I go to the bank yesterday.
What?
I go to the bank yesterday.
When?
Yesterday? All
Yes.
right, I went to the bank yesterday.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Okay, once more? No?
Yeah, that's all.
That's all, okay.
That's all. Okay, and now, Lena, you are the student, and Alina, you're the teacher. At last.
Okay.
I go to the bank yesterday.
No, that's wrong. You must say, I went to the bank yesterday.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. One more time.
Okay, I go to the bank yesterday.
I went to the bank yesterday. I went. Yeah?
Went. Okay, thank you. I will try to remember that.
Okay, one more time.
I go to the bank yesterday.
Yesterday, I.
Go to the bank.
Yesterday, I.
Yeah, okay. I went to the bank.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. And I go to the bank yesterday.
And what is the verb tense?
Go to the bank yesterday.
It's yesterday. What tense is that?
Oh, it's in the past. Okay, because
Yeah.
I went to the bank yesterday.
Okay, so thanks very much.
All right. Seems like we're done, right?
Yeah.
I hope you recognize some of the techniques which we talked about today and which Olga also mentioned, but she's not here with us, right? Okay, and now, share. I'm thinking how to show you this. Share, just share. Okay. So here you can see the whole list. It's not my invention. I learned it from a tutor or teacher trainer called Mike Catlin, who learned it from Ray Clark. And here's a list. There are 16 points. Wait, okay. And now I'd like you to go through them. Oh, I'm sorry, it's jumping. I can't even use the. Oh, here, like this. I can't even use my Google account. You see what's going on. So here we have the list of these techniques, and I'd like you to spend a minute or two quietly thinking of which of them looked the best, and which of them sounded and looked absolutely inappropriate. Sorry. Inappropriate and unacceptable, that's the word I wanted to use. Done?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So, any ideas? Let's start with Lena. Lena, which one seems the best to you?
The best? I wrote only the worst. Okay, good. Yeah, so the best for me is like number 3, like yesterday. Yes, you emphasize the word yesterday, and then student has to think that it was like yesterday, the past. Yeah, then what is the second word? Yeah, it's possible, but I wouldn't use it like the first technique to correct the mistakes, for example. Then fingers, it's really good, yeah, example to use to correct the mistakes, yes, also. And then when you stress go, yeah, you go to the bank yesterday, yes, really, and so on, connecting in this way. And I think that's number 1 is like completely inappropriate. No, that's wrong. You must say yes. So student may be afraid of you. Yes, when you say this way, even. Yes. Then again, when you just correct, I went to the bank. Come on, yes, and it's really not really polite to do that way. Yes, because you already don't give a choice. Yes, you give the correct answer, and it may sound rude. I think so. Yes. Then also. Number 7, whisper. Yeah, I went, for example, again, it's a correct option already. Yes, and the student doesn't have any option to choose, to think, yes, what was wrong about that. So I think when he analyzes himself, it's better because he comes to the solution himself. Then what? It's like, no, it's very difficult. Yes. Then also, and also number 15, yeah, please repeat, so student can repeat and repeat. Maybe there should be some follow-up questions after that. Please repeat, yes, when, what, and so on. Maybe it will help him to do that.
Okay, so this is what you felt. Any comments as to strongly agree, completely disagree from Mila, and what are your best and your worst ones?
Okay, so not strong. I don't have any strong comments, but I also would like to say about my favorites. I totally agree with Lena. It was Lena. Yeah. So I agree with her on the best points, and I also like the 9th one. So you can say in a conversational tone, and it's kind of a humorous way and like easy way to correct a mistake. So, you went to the bank yesterday. Okay. So, and like to guide the person to the mistake. So he needs to. It's really good when the person needs to think about where the exact mistake is. So yeah, it motivates him to self-analyze.
Yeah, but there should we go? Yes, or you go to the bank yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah. It's better to say go. No? Oh, you go to the bank yesterday. Yes. And then to guide the person to find the mistake.
Can I comment? Okay, thank you. Okay, good. With the don't jump. I don't know why it's jumping. Look, with this one, here in a conversational tone means that you almost ignore the student's mistake. You just repeat. So if somebody says, I go to the bank yesterday, and I say, you went to the bank yesterday. And
I got it in
I
ways.
do not focus on the mistake at all. And this is one of the techniques when the student is not like pressed, is not controlled, but they hear that the sentence the teacher produced is somehow different from what they said.
It's good when the student is attentive, but sometimes students, they just, so from one ear to another, and it's like, okay, so when, yes, so they don't, it depends on the students.
Exactly. Oh, I like the last comment. Yes, what do you do if this technique doesn't work?
Oh, you went to the bank yesterday, then you should stress maybe again his go, maybe. So, oh, you went to the bank yesterday, he said, so go or went? What do you choose, for example? Yeah.
Meaning, if this technique doesn't work, you choose another one.
Yeah.
And that's it. Okay. So this is a collection of possible ways to do that, and the idea is to experiment. Okay, and more comments. Okay, you told me about your favorite ones, right?
Yeah,
and
but
the worst one. You said that you agreed with Lena on the worst one, right?
Yes, and I meant like this. I didn't get the purpose of this technique, so I just meant that it would be better to use it in another way. So, like to say, "Oh, you go to the bank yesterday." Like, really? Oh, you go to the bank yesterday, like this, in conversational tone, but keeping the mistake.
I think it's this one.
Maybe, it's this one, maybe.
Okay. So there are two different ways.
Yeah, and then I also agree with with Lena about the first one, which is like totally inappropriate. It's rude. It will demotivate the student, I guess. And then I also agree that it's better to use those techniques when the student, when you not just correct the student's mistake, but you give him a chance to define the mistake, like to pay attention to it. So that's why he will fix it in his mind, like for the future, and then to correct it also by himself. So you just guide the person. So I agree with Lena.
Okay. Now, Arina, do you have anything to add? Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I agree with everything. I also wanted to mention the technique just a moment. The fifth one. Go is the present and you need past tense. I also like using this technique. And also I show it's present, past, future, as I showed you.
Okay. Who experienced this technique? Who was the student who was corrected that way?
Experienced. I do it with kids, with adults. I can say that it depends on the character. If the person is not shy, likes very active people and teachers, then I believe it's appropriate for him. And I try to use my hands. I try to use different voices. And if the student likes it, I do it. So
if not, then probably not. It seems to me that you're talking about a different one. You're talking about making a gesture to indicate past tense, aren't you?
And this one as well.
Okay. And my question was about like today when we were experimenting with these activities.
I was a teacher who said that.
You were the teacher, and who was the student then?
I was student, yeah.
Okay. How did you feel when you were corrected that way? Number 5, right?
Well, I didn't actually notice my mistake, I guess. I just repeated after the teacher, and I don't think that it paid my attention to it very much.
No. Go is the present. You need past tense. This one.
No, we did the 7th, whisper or mouth.
Okay, I see. Okay, so I was trying to get who it was, because some people really don't feel well when they are corrected this way. They feel hurt. But it's some people, and as Alina said, it definitely depends on the person. And well, let's listen to Maria, and then we'll make another comment.
Well, actually, I agree with the old girl on the point that are strong, but I also really like point number 11. Go most of all, of course, I like the point number 16. You go to the bank yesterday. I usually do like this. I usually ask my students, you go. But when it's very short time and when we are talking very fast and something like that, and I want to do it as fast as possible, I just say the word go, go, and my students usually grab the idea and they correct themselves. And of course, I completely agree that it's very rude to say, no, you're wrong. Because sometimes the students just can close themselves and they would be afraid to talk. And, yeah, it's very demotivating.
Yeah.
Actually, about the verb tenses, sometimes they are very confused about the tenses and well, sometimes when I just say it should be in past simple tense, sometimes in some situations, especially in stressful situations, it doesn't tell them anything, and they say, "Oh, okay," and they continue. They keep saying, "I go to bank."
Yes, yes. I agree with that too. To summarize, well, you agreed on some very rude ones, and agreed on some very good ones. But there is a collection of 16. Why? So look, when we start our relationship with the student, which techniques do we start with? With the ones which you chose as the best or as the worst?
The best.
As the best.
Yes.
Okay. Can you imagine any situations when you can use the worst one, like number one, the least favorite?
When I guess that we can use it when when the student is really like he's got very basic knowledge, or he hasn't got any knowledge of English, like with a starter. So he doesn't know the rules properly. So it's the only way is just to give him the right answer, and just to make him remember.
Yeah, but here I think it depends very much on the tone you choose, right?
Yeah, and probably just to make it softer. So just saying like, yeah, okay, but it's better to say like this.
Because blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. So it depends on the tone. Okay, and I could also add a situation when, for example, with my favorite student from Chicago, it's like we have a long story together, and so I actually tried this and all other possible ways to correct him. And sometimes, because it's a long relationship, really long relationship, and we've talked about so many different things, he's actually upper intermediate, but he makes mistakes from elementary level, like 100 mistakes from elementary level, and I told you why. This is the consequence of learning the language in the environment. And so sometimes I allow myself to be provocative, rude even, absolutely non-understanding, because as soon as one technique doesn't work, I choose another one. Maybe this one will help, or maybe the next one, or maybe the one after that. So I don't know which technique will work with this very student. And me, myself, as a student, I constantly learn languages, and I remember myself being corrected rudely by the teacher. But I remember this with gratitude, because I realized that only after she said, "No, Katya, it's that way." This was the moment when I was shocked, and I finally remembered, and I finally paid attention.
So it depends on the student, because very often you can repeat the same mistake. And I have a girl, yes, she does the same mistake all the time. She doesn't revise material, and she studies only during the lesson. Then maybe once in month she does the home task and sends it to me, yes. So yes, she is adult, and I can say, yes, I will tell your mom, or something like that. Yes. So when she does this kind of mistake again, come on, Esther, really? Yes. So you must say, I went. Yes. Think about this. Yes. And then let's analyze why. Yes. So continue. Yes. Again, analyzing together. So it depends.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Like, look at your students, but remember, we start with what kind of techniques?
very soft ones, the best ones.
And if they don't work, only after that and only after 101 mistakes, we're allowed to use a less polite one.
Yeah.
Okay, this is speaking. And I was a little late, so we definitely have 10 minutes. Do we have them? Yeah, okay. Good. So the next is writing. Correction after writing. Look, because we are a bit short of time, I'll switch to just telling you, to just sharing. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt and ask me something. So, writing. After writing, I have the following collection. Sorry, and one more. I'm sorry. Okay. This. After writing. So, imagine your student has produced a text as homework during the class, and then you're given the feedback. So, here are the ways which I collected, which I experienced, which I was shown, and something. Yeah. So, one is write a new version of the text. Student compares, teacher helps with any questions. For example, Mila left. For example, a student wrote a text, I looked at it, and it contains a lot of mistakes. I rewrite this text with the student's ideas, but with correct words, correct punctuation, correct grammar, whatever. Then the student needs to compare and see what I changed. This can be applied to very many different things. This can be applied to grammar mistakes, to vocabulary mistakes, to appropriacy, to register. For example, where the student used the word good, I could use the word amazing. But also to help develop, not only to correct mistakes, but also to help develop the language. However, it's very time-consuming on the part of the teacher. That might be the problem. Okay, next. Write the correct phrase as if students understands. So what I do, I just write correct phrases, only those where there are mistakes, and then I show the student they need to find it in the text and correct it. If they don't have any questions, why? Well, that's it, and we move on to the next. Okay, next. Here I need to show you something. It says highlighting the incorrect part, write the correct version in brackets, and I'm showing you. I need to share. Okay. Share. And where's the video? So stop share. Share again. It's this. So now you can see the text produced by my student as a part of preparation for TOEFL. It's an integrated essay, and this is what I did. I highlighted the word, made it in italics, and then next to it I wrote in brackets and in a different color the correct version. All right? So this saves time. Of course, it would be better just to highlight the word and to make the student think, but when students prepare for the exam, they normally have a month, 2 months, 2 months and a half, not more, and to speed up the process, I do this. Then more coding. If there was a word missed, like the article missed, I just put it here in brackets, for example, in a different color. And listening gives, if there's just some grammar and I need to add something, I could add it. Then like this, for example, right? I highlighted e-test, and normally people put it in short, and I show that. Let me see if there's anything. There's one interesting example here. So the person wrote this, and what does that mean? So I just write in questions. Sorry, I just didn't understand what the person meant. It can be anything. There can be an unclear phrase, sentence, or anything. I just do this. Look, pay attention as well that I sometimes correct a long phrase. I just rewrite it. Remember I said about rewriting the whole text. This is a shorter version of it. I just took the sentence which I didn't see as a good one and rewrote it. Any questions so far? No. No. Okay, good. Then, because it's a preparation for an exam, this was actually sent to the student, and that's it. They get it together with my comments. The comments include the content of the task, of the task completed. So like if the person included all the needed points, if the person chose the right structure, if the person separated it in paragraphs well. Then I also mention typical mistakes, what to pay attention to in the next writing. And of course, I say these. Thanks, and keep on working, or something like that. A positive comment, which is absolutely necessary. Okay, so this is this. Next, the next point is, come on, too many buttons. The next point is highlight the incorrect part and code the type of mistake. I don't have an example here because I normally do this on written, not in an electronic way. So for example, a student made a spelling mistake, so I highlighted or underlined this word and put SP, spelling. G.
Yeah, but the students should know, yes, what does it mean? What does this code mean?
Of course, I tell them what that means. Yes, of course, I explain. Yes. So G, what does G mean?
Grammar?
Grammar, sure. What does WW mean?
I'm not sure.
Maybe vocabulary?
It's wrong word. Yes, it's a vocabulary mistake, but I put wrong word. Well, you can choose, you can put V meaning vocabulary. This is my system. This is the system I use. Then there's this WM. What might that mean?
Wrong meaning?
Huh?
Maybe wrong meaning.
Wrong meaning. To me, it's the same as wrong word. Here, I mean a word missing. For example, an article, or I don't know, whatever, a connector. It can be any word. So a word is missing. And P in writing, what might that be?
Punctuation.
Exactly, punctuation. So next, highlight the incorrect part, and let students correct it him or herself. I'm not sure if I need to show you the example. I have one of my Spanish writings. It's highlighted, and then during the lesson I had to look at these words and correct them. Okay, and finally write comments in the document. It's just one. Not that. Write comments in the document. Here, I think I want to show you that. And this is this. It's my Spanish writing. It's my text. I was preparing for a Spanish exam, and look what my teacher did. So yes, she highlighted some of the words. Look, she used several techniques. So actually, let me see. In green, she put the information which I had to include in the text, and I did. You see, not too much. I wasn't a very good student. In purple, she put the words which were good for the style, like not only bad, but also good, what I did well. And you see, it's almost all purple. Good. She also just underlined the words in question. And then she wrote these comments, you see? It's in a normal document, Word document, and you can do this. It's here in Stavka, Примечание, and you can write yours. You highlight the word, then Stavka, Примечание, and you write it. You can do this and then send this document to your student. Okay. And then the last technique here is as follows. Inform of the type of mistake, the type and number of mistakes, and that student find and correct them. For example, I say, your text contains 5 mistakes with articles. And the students needs to find them and correct them. And then your text contains like 7 mistakes with tenses or with verb forms. Find and correct them. And this is what the students do. And finally, first it's difficult, but then they get used to it and they become alert and focused, and it helps them develop. Okay. So this is about writing. And finally, after a test. After a test is like very simple, in fact. I think that it's also obvious, but I wanted to comment on them a little bit. And it's here. As before, as with writing, write the correct version and ask the student if it's clear. We already talked about it. Mark the incorrect sentence and correct with the student together. Mark the incorrect sentences and phrases and give the student time to correct them on his or her own. Okay, you can do it together, one by one, or just give the student time and after that check. And do actually the same. Mark the incorrect sentences and set the correction as homework. And so the student actually does it absolutely on his own once. Okay. So this is the collection I have. And do you have any questions here?
Yeah.
Here not. Okay. And the last thing, I think we will have to skip this part. And the last question to finish. What do we start and finish the correction slot with? So when you start correcting, what do you start and finish with?
You should always start with positive things, words the person has done well. Like you're doing well done, good job, or I liked your essay very much, or if it's some kind of invitation, or really, so you invite me, I would accept that offer, something like that, some positive things, and only then you should put down some corrections.
Exactly. Okay. So this is what we start with. Then goes the correction part, where you work with mistakes. And how do you finish it?
Don't give up.
For example,
Yeah, so you're doing, yes, again, to say the summary, yes, don't worry, everything is okay, you still did the great job, yes, and we will work together on the mistakes that you did, and we will improve it and make it perfect, so don't worry. English is easy, and everything will be okay, so in this way.
Yes, and what kind of comment is it, once again? How could we characterize this comment?
Encouraging, inspirational, something like that.
Encouraging and also positive, yes? So start with positive and finish with positive, because the positive mood is the most important thing, actually.
Yes.
Which is almost the only thing which really helps learning. Okay, good. Do you have any questions about all this information?
No, it was useful, interesting, yes, and thank you for like practicing also, not only like the theory, but trying it on ourselves. Yes, so it was really great.
Okay, thanks very much. I hope this all will be of great use in your teaching practice. And well, I know that you'll get the video. I'm not sure. I'll talk to Marina if I need to send you the document with our presentation. If I do, I'll send you, or she'll send you. Thanks very much. It was a pleasure working with you today. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet here again sometime. Okay.
Also, yeah, thank you. Bye.